Hi friends, I'm Kim from Mountain Beaches, and today we are going to talk about an RV first aid kit. But if you've not been here before, welcome. If you have followed us, welcome back. We always love our followers to come back. Make sure you subscribe, ring that bell, and give us a good like if you like this video. You'll notice today that we don't have Norm with us. We have a special visitor. Her name is Julie. She's our daughter. She's an RN. She's a fitness instructor and a mom of four. So I got on Amazon and ordered a bunch of stuff that I thought would be useful for a first aid kit that was small enough to not take up much room in RV, but also to hook on my backpack and take hiking with us, because you know how much Norm and I love to hike. So here's the size of the first aid kit. Good size?
Oh yeah, good size. You don't want to go any bigger than that.
All right, and here's all the stuff we want to fit in here.
We can do it. Totally doable. It's all going in.
All right.
Almost all.
Almost all. So let's start with, what do we think? Let's start with this trauma kit. I bought this because the person that I was following was a backwoodsman, hiker, off-grid kind of person, and this seemed like a good thing if you had a big wound. So Julie, tell us, what do you think?
Yeah, and yes, that's true. Maybe a trauma stop bleeding fast kit like this would be very beneficial for somebody who's going to be very remote, far out of the way, maybe hunting or using tools, axes, knives, and more at risk. I think a stop bleeding fast would be essential for an emergency use in that type of situation. For our situation, however, we want to consider the circumstances of the hike. And for us, mostly we're going on hikes that maybe 5, 6, 7 miles if we're stretching it. And usually we're not going to be in that situation where there's guns involved, there's weapons involved. And most likely we're not going to need a stop bleed fast kit of this size. Everything in this kit is also included on this table other than a clotting pad. I don't feel like that's necessary enough to hold this whole kit in our backpack or in our first aid kit, so I don't think this is necessary in this circumstance.
All right. Should we maybe take the clotting package out?
You could. It's not very big and it's kind of flat, so we can maybe slide it in with the rest of our dressing supplies.
Okay, so maybe we're not going to absolutely throw this away, but we're just going to drop that one down there.
And you could maybe, instead of buying the whole pack plus, you could just search if you feel like a clotting pad is necessary or something you want to carry. Just buy that individually and assemble your own kit.
All right, we got rid of that one. That'll give us a little more room.
Yes.
Let's start at this end and talk about if we have some kind of a laceration, scrape, rub, that kind of thing.
Okay.
I first bought the gloves. What do you think?
I think gloves are good. You only probably need a couple of pairs, definitely not the whole box. You just need to remember this is a hiking first aid kit that will be used for 1 to 2 people max, and so 1 to 2 pair of gloves would be plenty. The purpose of these is mostly to keep dirt out of the wound, not like in hospital where you're trying to protect your own self for the most part. You're trying to keep the cleanliness of the wound intact, so that's why you would want to wear gloves.
All right, awesome. Now we have all these different kinds of pads. So we have the combined pads. Those are quite large.
They are bigger, more absorbent pads, so they're good for heavier bleeds, larger lacerations, and they're, like I said, they're bigger. They also come with tape, so we'll keep the tape and keep a couple of pads.
Okay,
yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And then we have these smaller non-adhered pads.
So non-stick is good, especially if you have more of an abrasion where the surface of the skin has come off. You don't want your gauze to be sticking to that type of wound. So a non-adherent pad is good in that situation, and we would take 3 or so of those.
Okay, wonderful. And then we have Band-Aids.
Of course, Band-Aids are a must for any first aid kit. You don't need the whole box. You could use a couple in each size and be great for the first aid kit.
All right, perfect. And then also some steri strips.
Yeah, so steri strips are good if you've never used them for a larger laceration that maybe is gaping open that you can pull together. It helps to control the bleeding and keep dirt and debris out until you get to a hospital or a doctor that can do the full repair of a laceration.
Okay, so I'm doing okay. What about, I bought crazy glue. The guy told me that I should get crazy glue.
So lots of people like to use crazy glue or super glue as a skin adherent, which is possible and may be useful if you're in the backwoods and have a laceration that needs to be closed for a long period of time. Maybe it's not an emergency, but you just need it closed for a few days. This could probably work. You can also, there is skin glue, Dermabond, that is more formulated for skin. This can be a little more harsh and abrasive to skin, and more difficult to remove when you do need to do the official repair.
Okay.
So crazy glue, in our situation where we're not backpacking, we're not overnighting, I wouldn't recommend the crazy glue. I would recommend just wrapping it, keeping it clean until you can get to the doctor and get an official suture repair.
Okay.
In the long run, this could actually damage your skin more and make the repair more difficult once you get there.
So what do you think? Awesome.
Out of the pack.
All right, along with all of these things to help a wound, I bought some of this vet wrap.
Yeah. So
There's a lot of it.
People know this as vet wrap, Coban in the hospital. It's the stretchy, non-adhesive wrap that you can use instead of tape. So one of these would be great. You can use these for multiple things. You can use these if you're having a heavier bleed to apply pressure. You can wrap it a little bit tighter with a bigger combination pad, or ABD pads we also call them, to apply more pressure to a bigger, heavier bleeding wound. You can also use them if you want to grab some sticks and create a splint if you have a fracture, to wrap around to support the splint. One of those is perfect for a first aid kit.
All right. One of the things I'm noticing that I don't have in here, actually two things that I'm noticing. Let's see. What about a wrap for a sprained ankle?
Yeah, an ACE wrap is great. Probably a 2 to 4 inch ACE wrap is all you'll need. To help support that sprained ankle and get you down off the trail.
Okay, and what about a triangle bandage, like if you've dislocated your shoulder or something like that?
Those are always an option if you have room. You can also just fashion one out of the sweatshirt that you brought with you. Most people bring a sweatshirt or a t-shirt. Grab the t-shirt off your husband's back and tie your arm up. That works fine too.
Okay.
So you can always be creative in what you use, yeah, if you're short on space.
All right, along with bleeding wounds, it was recommended by this backcountry guy that I get a, what's this called?
Tourniquet.
Tourniquet.
Tourniquet, yes. So tourniquets have a purpose and a place, but they should only be used by trained professionals. Most people do not know how to properly use a tourniquet, and what we found and what I've seen is that tourniquet usage can also often cause more damage once a person gets to the hospital than the bleeding itself. And so if you can stop the bleeding with pressure alone, that's great, because then you're able to save the integrity of the rest of the limb, and not have to lose the limb if the bleeding is controlled.
Okay.
So I would not recommend a tourniquet for somebody who's not trained to use one. Out the door.
All right, we're getting there. I have also emergency blankets.
Yeah, these are so small and so lightweight, it's easy to throw them in a first aid kit like this. They're nice if you run into inclement weather, it gets dark and the temperature drops, somebody's injured and they're in shock, you can wrap them in one of these for a quick source of heat. So for sure I would add one blanket to our emergency kit. All
right, it's looking like getting rid of some of this stuff and just using one or two. It looks like I'm pretty sure going to be able to fit it in there.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about matches.
So matches, again, considering our circumstance, are we going to be in the situation where we're going to need to start a fire? Most likely not, but it wouldn't hurt. They're small enough. You can even break this down even smaller and just put 3 matches in your bag and have it there just in case.
All right, that sounds great. I also bought a waterproof flashlight, and it's really tiny.
Yeah, so these are great. Obviously, it's not a medical aid, but they're always great to have in case of an emergency. You never know if it's going to get dark before you get down. Might take you longer than you planned on. Also, flashlights are good if you need to dress something and it's getting darker. Somebody else can shine a light on the wound while you're dressing it.
Okay.
So it's tiny enough I feel like you can fit it in and it'd be worth it.
All right, perfect. These big honkin' scissors. I'm not sure if is the right thing for the emergency
You say
kit.
that like that's a bad thing. Scissors are not a bad thing, but there might be some smaller alternatives like a Swiss Army knife, a pocket knife of some sort that includes a small little pair of shears inside of it and also has sharp blades to cut through whatever else. You may need the knife or the scissors if somebody has an injury up higher on the leg or the arm that you need to get to, and then you can just cut the sleeve, cut the pant leg, and dress the wound, apply a splint as needed. And so these are great. It's a good idea. These also have a cute little carabiner on there that I thought was interesting, that you can put it on the outside of your pack.
Okay.
If you need to save space.
Yep, and I bought some more carabiners just in case you want to hook it somewhere else.
You can hook it on the outside of your backpack, on your belt, if you're short on space.
And these are good just to have in the RV.
In the RV anyway.
Yeah. Let's talk about meds. I only bought Tylenol, which I think is a good option, but should I have gotten other meds?
So yeah, Tylenol is great. I love Tylenol in the first aid kit for any type of injury or pain, sprained ankle, that kind of stuff. I would also recommend some Motrin, an anti-inflammatory, joint pain, that kind of thing. And then I would also recommend some Benadryl. I would highly recommend Benadryl in your first aid kit for allergic reactions that you may come across, whether it's to pollen, weeds, or insect bites, bee stings. A couple Benadryl will come in handy for that. I would also recommend some Imodium. If you're ever drinking river water and you get sick and you end up with a problem that way, Imodium could save you from getting dehydrated until you can get to help. And then the last medication I would probably include would be aspirin. There's been several instances that I know of where hikers are having a heart attack, and you never know when the heart attack is going to strike. So aspirin with a heart attack is ideal. You would just bring the baby aspirin that you can chew up until you can get to help.
Alrighty, we have covered a lot, but we have a few more to look at.
Just a couple more things that might be good to include.
All right, we have burn gel, we have iodine swabs. What about these?
So the burn gel is good. You may be around a fire, you may not, but burn gel can also be good for blisters. If you have a blister that's very bothersome, it can help numb that up. And then the iodine antiseptic swabs are a good idea in the case of a skin injury that you want to keep clean. You can use iodine, you can use alcohol pads. Any of those are a good idea. Along those lines of being antiseptic, we also have the bacitracin ointment. So as well as using this antiseptic ointment to start, I would also put the gel on before you apply your dressing.
Okay, all right. And what about the hydrocortisone cream?
Hydrocortisone cream, these come in tiny little packets. They're worth taking along with you in case you run into some poison oak, poison ivy, or something that you're allergic to on your skin and is causing a rash.
Okay, all right. And then this little packet of ammonia inhalants.
Ammonia inhalants, I don't really see a purpose for ammonia inhalants in a hiking backpack first aid kit. I say we just toss those out. No need for those. All
right. Do you see anything else that we didn't cover? The only thing that I'm thinking of, we watch another YouTube channel called A&K Adventures, and she always wears this little GPS beacon on her backpack. What do you think about those?
I think those are a good idea. Again, considering your circumstances, I think they are probably a must for when you're backpacking or if you're solo hiking, in case you run into an emergency and need immediate help. On these more traveled hikes, shorter hikes, or if you know you're going to have cell phone service, probably don't need to invest in one of those because they are a little more pricey.
So hey, if you guys have used a GPS beacon, or if you know of anything that would work for our kind of circumstances, please put that in the comments below, because we are really not well versed on that and we would like to learn more about that. So now the trick is getting all of this in the appropriate mounts into that. Think we can do it?
We got this. Yeah, we can do this. But
But less is more, right?
Less is more. Less is more. I like this. You can snap it onto your belt, your backpack.
You can use one of these.
It also has a few more of these, so if you wanted to slide anything in on the outside, you can do that.
Okay. You could put a carabiner on there and hook it on.
Got hooks.
Yep. So, awesome.
We did it. We
did
fit it all. Good job.
So if you like this video and you want to see more wonderful things just like this, we're recommending this video right over here for you. Go click on it and I'll join you there in just a few minutes.
Call us crazy, but things are finally right. With you and I, the future is bright.